my name's Aurora, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Zope.
Zope is an object-oriented web application server written mostly in Python and developed by the Zope Corporation as an open-source project since 1999. The most recent version, Zope 3.4, was just released in January of 2009. I decided to investigate Zope for two reasons. One, Python kicks ass. I spent the summer working with it and really fell in love with Python. Two, Zope has a subproject named Grok, which really pleasant nod to my favorite science fiction writer.
So I won't lie, really just based on this, I was interested. So let's check out Zope. Step 1, we need to install the framework. To install this on a Mac just running Snow Leopard or OS X, you just need at least Python 2.4, which is no problem, right? I mean, when you install the OS, you automatically get Python installed. We're running 2.6, not a problem. We also need zlib, and zlib is a part of libpng, and I know I already have that from some previous work I've done, so I'm not worried. All I have to do, install Zope.
I've already got everything downloaded, so pop open a terminal, go into the directory. There's a configure file already there, so this makes it easy. Just go on as expected, but we want 2.4? It won't do 2.6. 2.6 isn't even the most recent version of Python. This isn't going to work.
I'm going to be honest here. I'm really not interested in trying to continue to install this at this point. I really don't want to bork any of my other Python code, and trying to revert back to an older version of Python is not sounding attractive. So maybe instead of jumping in here, in the sake of science, I'm going to do some research. The big difference between Zope and other frameworks is that Zope works with Python objects that it stores in this object database they called ZoDB. The object database is actually quite cool, and it's one of the most attractive and defining features of Zope. ZoDB can even be used independently of Zope and actually appears to be pretty popular. This object database can manage basic object types like documents and images and so on, but you can also add third-party object types. That could be wikis, blogs, photo galleries. There's a lot of stuff out there. Depending on exactly what you're looking for, the basic install of Zope can become more complicated as you add more plugin components and gain additional functionality.
Plone, a content management system built on the Zope platform, works great with Zope, and based on what I've seen, is pretty essential to a positive Zope experience. This means that you're also going to have to download and install Plone as well.
Plone ends up providing an exceptionally easy-to-use GUI that allows you to quickly create web applications without even having to write a single line of code.
Sean Kelly, who presented this video called Better Web Application Framework, was in fact a huge fan of the Zone-Plone combination and recommended it to replace the current methods used on the project he was working on at NASA. If you take a look at the video, he's able to quickly create a simplified version of some time tracker software. It was quick, easy, and fun.
Now, if we take a look at building a web app using Zope, and if you have any Java background whatsoever, one of the first questions is, how do you implement the model view controller pattern? Well, let's see what the Zope website has to say about MVC.
As I dig further into the Zope documentation, I find that content components are supposed to be the model portion, but I'm not really clear what that means. And the advice on the mailing list seems to be do it in Java, which isn't really helpful.
If we go back to Mr. Kelly and his nice Zope Plone setup, he shows that a quick Python script is the equivalent of a servlet, and thus a controller. And that if you take a Zope page template, this ends up being the equivalent of a JSP and thus part of our view. Nick Sargent, a web developer, wrote a blog article on Zope. But what makes this significant is that Aaron Lenman of Zope Corporation then made some responses, which starts to give some insight to just how it is that Zope works.
Aaron writes, Zope 3 is technically not a web server, but a group of libraries that can be used together. While some of the packages handle web publishing, it's possible to write sophisticated applications in Zope 3 that have nothing to do with web publishing. This starts to make me think that Zope itself is more or less the model in this picture.
So even if we don't stress too much about implementing MVC, can we still use Zope? Well, sorta. The learning curve for Zope is shaped like this, and the documentation, really dang hard to navigate. If we take a look at the opinions of the internet, if you will, documentation is actually the weakest point of the Zope project.
And this makes people angry.
Now, to be fair, a lot of the criticism online comes from roughly between 2000 and 2003, so just when the Zope project was maturing. And it looks like that everyone at that time was sort of giving Zope the old college try and coming back with a bit of a sour taste in their mouth.
In fact, in 2006, the Grok project was started, strictly to make Zope 3 technology more agile and more accessible to newcomers, because Zope was so difficult to get started on.
But having to create an easier version of yourself seems like a fundamental flaw. Now, the Zope Foundation has been making a noble effort of revamping Zope through Grok, and they've recently launched a brand new documentation section.
So let's take a look at it. If you go to the main page, it's right there. It's a brand new link, you can click on it. All the docs are now in order here. But if we go back, the sidebar still has the old links. The API document, it's a 404. And if we go back again and just start clicking on the document sections there, it seems where you're supposed to go. Well, it takes you to a huge paste of links, but most of them are kind of outdated. In fact, it's really hard to tell which ones are new for Zope 3.4 and which ones are for older versions. Just clicking them in general, you just sort of randomly have to look at stuff. And if you click on most of them, it'll just bring you to another page of 30 or 40 or so links.
Their website makes me sad. It's hard to find what you're looking for, and it's surprising how many pages are just filled with links, and then you click on a link in that page and go to another page also filled with links. All by itself, Zope is a bit of a pain. For having been out and about for just over 10 years, it's still, awkward turtle. The website is poor, it only works with an old version of Python, and instead of being flexible and allowing third-party plugins, it seems to depend on things like Plone for the easy and rapid development that the Zope Foundation boasts of. ZoDB, the object database, is actually one of Zope's greatest strengths, but you can use that separately, and that seems to be what people are doing. At the end of the day, although a noble effort, I'm more interested in looking at other frameworks than trying to figure out exactly what combination of plugins will make Zope work for me.